Okay, go.
There you go.
Hello and welcome everybody to April's Hug, LA Hug, building a sales enablement content plan that works. We have a special guest today, the VP from Lead G2, Dani Buckley, the Center for Sales Strategy. It is the regulars, Latal, CEO, Matter Marketing, myself, strategy for Matter Marketing, and we're just really excited to have Dani here. And as always, we want to start with an icebreaker based around our theme, our topic. Sales and marketing. I think everybody that works in marketing has worked in a company where sometimes sales and marketing are BFFs, sometimes they're just acquaintances. So is there anybody out there that wants to throw out a couple of examples on chat or live? It would be brilliant, where you had a real awesome frenemies. Yeah, that's a nice way to say it. There's a lot of passive aggressiveness that goes on between sales and marketing. But who's got a really good story of, everybody's got a misalignment story. Happy to hear those, but anybody got a great story about alignment? A big win, a big positive? Because if not, I know
I have one.
Oh, brilliant, Dani.
Yeah. So one of the things that we were able to, it took, I feel like, years to get to this point, but we finally are in a place at our company where sales actually will send us like on the spot emails with, we'll send them to marketing when they're like, hey, here's a really great question I got from a prospect today, or here's a new objection I heard. So we've been trying to get them to do that. You know, we often will have like calls to pull that out of them, but they're now at a point where they're just doing it like on the spot, and we love it because it's just like such great inspiration for new content.
Oh my God, that's a wish list item.
Yeah.
That's a wish list item. Anybody else winning at this game between sales and marketing? I'm going to assume if it's a complete silence, everybody has nothing but bad stories. Bueller?
I actually have a little bit disconnected, not a friend or foe story, but I just saw a thing on LinkedIn this morning where somebody posted, and I am completely allergic to industry buzzwords. And as much as I love content marketing, whether it's in marketing or on the sales side, I think that content marketing has just become overused to the point where it's like roll your eyes when you hear that word. And somebody on LinkedIn just posted something like, if you feel that way about content marketing, just replace the term content marketing with customer education. And I was like, yes, please, let's do that.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, I just think, well, from our own standpoint, actually putting in a sales enablement program is a rewarding feat in of itself, right? Because, you know, being able to automate and set up workflows and sequences that take, you know, the manual part out of what we do in terms of sales and consulting, I think that's just it's always a win. And if it falls into marketing, you know, that's always a good thing too, but it's just a process thing. It's a good thing. I think it's all win.
And Christina, this is Mike. Just one quick comment. So one thing I'm thinking through with business to business sales is like, is this like almost a false separation? So if it's all about educating the customer and bringing them on a journey that meets them right time, right place, and all that good stuff, like this might be almost an imperfect way to frame up what we're even doing these days. I don't pretend to have the answer. That's why I'm here. But that's something I'm thinking about that I know lots of people are trying to solve for. So I'd love to learn about that.
Brilliant. Okay. Duly noted. Dani heard you. Okay. Well, thank you guys for your 2 cents. I think we can now roll on to what the agenda is and hope that hits some of what you're looking for, Mike. Wow.
I'm sorry, I'm having
Latal finds the
I'm having screen sharing issues, but our agenda today, I'm just going to speak to it. Dani is here from Lead G2 in the Center for Sales Strategy, and she's going to take us all through a sales enablement content plan. At the end, we'll come back to kind of our usual housekeeping where we will have a raffle. So our raffle today, we have some Hubspot swag puzzles to give away. A random person who is here for the presentation live will get a $50 gift card from Amazon from Matter Marketing. And then the person who asks the best question during today's presentation is going to get a free Powerhouse Pass to Inbound 22. So we're listening for those best questions. So Dani, go ahead and take us away unless anybody has questions before we get started.
Great, cool.
All
Thank
yours.
you. What a prize. That's awesome. I wasn't told there'd be raffles and prizes. Oh my gosh. So let me share my screen and get us in here. This is a topic something I'm just really passionate about. I talk about sales enablement all the time. And I love talking about it. I come from a sales background. I sold early in my career, sold radio advertising and did lots of other sales things before shifting more into marketing. And now as the vice president at Lead G2, I get to do all of it. And I love that. And so this is something I'm just really excited to talk to you guys about today. And some of my contact information, if you want to reach out. I love connecting. I love, chatting, answering questions, anything like that. Leadg2.com is our website, and sellsmarter.sellfaster.com is the podcast that I host, where we just talk about sales enablement. That's how much I love it. So, and season 3 just launched. I think the second episode went out today. So that's my little plug. So here's what we're going to talk about today. The way I create these presentations is often, what are the questions that I hear? And let's talk about those. So what kind of content should I be creating is one that I hear all the time when it comes to sales enablement. Like, how do I decide what's the best way to be strategic about this? How can I ensure our salespeople are actually using all this great content and resources at the right time with the right people? A lot of the times on the marketing, where we create all this stuff and then we're like, is it being used? Is it, how do we make sure they're doing that? And then really just how can we ensure that adoption and usage amongst the sales team in general? Those are some questions that I commonly hear that we're going to address today. So the 4 buckets of sales enablement, this is just to get us all kind of a level set so we're all on the same page, because I'm going to be kind of touching on each of these 4 throughout my presentation. So I kind of think that everything kind of boils down into one of these buckets, and some of things overlap. And so the first one is strategy, right? You've got to have a sales enablement strategy. This is really, what is the plan? How do we make sure this also includes your sales strategy, your sales process, things like that kind of fall in there, and making sure you have all that foundational stuff. The second bucket is content. Do you have the right resources? This also includes like email templates, but one sheets, proposals, anything that your salespeople might need to share in the sales process. And third is technology. Do we have the right tools to help them sell smarter and faster, the things they might need at their fingertips? And then last is training. And I'm going to get the end of my presentation. I'm actually going to dive into some best practices around training, because it's, I think, the often most overlooked one of this. It's like, we set up all this stuff. We've got a plan. We have all this great content and resources. We roll out cool new tools in our CRM and all of this stuff. And then we kind of like do a training and then like, all right, good luck. And we forget about it. And so training is an ongoing thing. And so I'll touch on that more in a little bit. So first off, what kind of content should I be creating? That was my first question. So there's 3 kind of steps to this that I am going to cover. And so first is going to be knowing your options. Number 2 is going to be audit what you already have. And number 3 is map your buyer's journey. My goal is that you walk away with like really specific things you can go do today to get started. So I'm going to be really specific and I'm going to move kind of fast. So step 1, know your options. What kind of content is available to create, right? When it's in sales, sometimes we get really stuck on, I don't know, depending on your organization, maybe it's like 1 sheets. I know I have a director of sales. She's like, I need 1 sheets for everything. That's like her favorite thing. And that's great. We can have 1 sheets for everything, but like, there's so many other types of content. And so this is a list of lots of things, but it's also not everything. Do you have long form content? Do you have articles? Do you have, objection talk tracks, your elevator pitch actually written out, visual stuff like infographics or interactive stuff, podcasts, webinars, live streams, things like that. The list goes on. Of course, we want things like case studies and all that bottom of the funnel stuff. But I find that this bottom of the funnel stuff is where sales leaders often focus, because you're so used to those are like, you absolutely need these things to sell. But it's all the other stuff we want to make sure we have as well, that sometimes tends to be more marketing content, but it really can be catered to the sales process. So those are the options, knowing that, starting there. Then we get into audit your existing content. So there's two kind of steps to this that I recommend that you can go do right away. So the first one is ask yourself this. I like to do this in a spreadsheet. Take all the content you have that could be used in the sales process. Some of it could be outdated. Some of it could be more marketing content that could be repurposed, but you want to just look at all your content and say, is this good to go? Is this something we can use right now? No edits, great. I'm a big fan of color coding, make it green. Does it need to be updated? Is there maybe just some tweaks to it? Maybe it needs new branding. Maybe it just needs another set of eyes, whatever that is. It needs to be updated, make it yellow. And if it's outdated and we just shouldn't use it, like, let's retire this piece. Let's get it out of our kind of arsenal of content, make it red, let's move on. And so I think just doing a nice cleanup of what you have is going to allow you to determine what you need. So that's the first step of this. And then the second piece is going to be ask your sales.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Is this kind of process the same for everybody, no matter what you're selling, no matter how long your sales process is, no matter how your alignment currently is with marketing and sales? Do you recommend this same kind of process?
I do. Yeah. I mean, you could be a one-man shop. This could just be one, maybe it's just the owner that's selling. Maybe it's even, maybe you're even primarily e-commerce. This still is valuable. So I specialize in B2B. We talk a lot. So a lot of language I use is like, your sales team are doing this, but it could be content that's just being used in the journey online on your website. And you still can value from doing this and making sure that it's aligned with what you need to move a prospect along. Yeah. Good question. So on that note, ask your salespeople, if you have them, whoever that is, whoever is prospect, customer facing, ask them, what do you use most often? What do you never use? What do you wish you had? This is just a really good conversation to have that kind of goes with that audit of what you're kind of evaluating too. And then you use this information, and what we call it a buyer's journey workshop. And this can involve all kinds of people at your organization. And this is where you're really going to think through your buyer, think through your customer, and what are the questions, the objections, the concerns, the needs, the pain points, what are the things that they have at those different stages? And so really you just go through each stage. You say, okay, when someone's in the awareness stage, make sure you define that based off of your specific audience. And you might do this for more than one type of customer. And then just have the conversation. What are the questions we're hearing? What do they care about? This is just a great way to map that out. And then go to the next stage. Okay, awareness, now consideration. Once we've gotten someone and we're at this stage of our sales process, or they're at this stage of their buying journey, what are we hearing? What do they care about? You just do that all the way through. And this is the best way to really capture you're not just making assumptions. Oh, I need a one sheet on this, but you're actually coming up with content that is applicable to what they care about, right? The questions they have, and you might hopefully come up with ideas. You're like, oh, we didn't even think to have something on that, but this is an objection we hear all the time, and we don't have anything to address that. And then you can figure out what's the best way to address that with sales enablement content. So kind of touched on this. Then what? You take all that information, you evaluate your content needs, right? The type of content that you want, the audit results, pair that with the buyer's journey, and you really can kind of start to figure out what you want. This might all of a sudden be a little overwhelming, because you might be like, wow, we want 100 different things. We've got all these ideas. This is great. And we can't all do that, right? My favorite saying is, we use this at our company a lot. We can do anything, but we can't do everything. And so you need to be able to prioritize, right? So think about what resources you have. Do you have people internally that can create content? Do you need to outsource this to someone else, to a partner? Figure out what your resources are, if you have a budget, things like that, and then prioritize what makes the most sense, and just build that sales enablement content plan. It might be that you decide, you know, we can create one piece of content a month or a quarter. That's still a good plan. It might be, you know what, we're going all in on this and we're going to hire an agency and we're going to knock this all out in 6 months and have everything we possibly can need. You know, it depends obviously on your organization. So just being realistic and coming up with that plan is what you want to do. Okay. Our next question. So we've come up with what kind of content we need, what content we want to create. We're excited. And then you've created the content, right? So you have that in place. I'm not going to get into like how to create the content, but now you've got the content, you've got the resources, you've got the things you need for your salespeople. So how can you ensure that they're using it the right time with the right people, right? So we talked about the buyer's journey. So one of the ways to help them ensure they know when to use the content is to really map this out, right? So this could be a deck. It could be just something really simple that you share with them. Where like, hey, when someone's at this stage, here's all the resources. So I have like the generic like types of content, but you'd be more specific. You'd say our ebook on this, our webinar on this. These are the things that are addressed at this stage. It also doesn't have to be just mapping to the buyer's journey. It could be mapping to your sales process as well. I like doing that too. So when you're, you know, these are the things you want to send after the discovery meeting, or these are the things you want to send, you know, when you've presented a proposal and you're kind of waiting for follow-up, you know, you can kind of map it in different ways, but make it really easy for your salespeople to know, okay, I go here when I hear this, or when I'm at this stage. That's what I like about mapping the content. Taking this one step further, which I'm a huge fan of. And again, this is relevant to anyone, whether you are, you know, just one person and you're the owner out there making sales, or you've got 100 salespeople, sales plays. This is a step-by-step breakdown of what to do and when in any given sales scenario that a salesperson might encounter, right? So you're following your sales process and your best practices. So examples of a sales play. You might have a sales play for when a new lead comes through on your website. What are the steps your salesperson takes? What email do they send? You know, do they add it to the CRM? Do they make a phone call? What do you want them to be sending? Maybe you have a new webinar that's perfect for whenever someone fills out this specific form on your website. So you send them that. So again, you're making it just super easy for your salespeople to know what to use and how to use this content strategically. Other examples of sales plays, maybe it's when approaching a new prospect, if you're doing outbound selling, maybe after you've had a discovery call, maybe when staying in touch. This also could be specific to different objections that you're overcoming, things like that. So you could have, I mean, most sales playbooks that we create have somewhere between 15 to 25 sales plays just to start. And then you can kind of keep adding to those. But you might just say, you know, we just need to start with 3. We need one for approaching a new lead, you know, after discovery call and after we present. Let's just get those 3 really foundational ones together. And so a sales play in its simplest form, really, you're just laying out the steps. And those things are linking to email templates, to content. Again, making it as simple as possible for your salespeople to follow the best practices you want them to, or even for yourself, right? To save yourself, if you're the one out prospecting or talking to prospects, making it to where you're not having to recreate the wheel every time. Okay, this is a great email that I've sent. Let me make this one that I can easily save. Hopefully with HubSpot, you're using email templates. I love the email templates tool with HubSpot. And really quickly, I can click of a button. I have this email. I can quickly customize it, send it. Just save myself maybe 5 minutes. Okay, over a week, I save myself 30 minutes. You know, over a month, it's like it adds up. And so just having these steps laid out and the content already linked, the landing page already linked, the video already embedded, whatever it is, that's going to help a lot. And it's going to make sure that the content's being used, but also in the right place and time. So I just touched on this, utilizing technology. You know, sales enablement doesn't require technology, but it's a lot better if we do, right? You can have a sales play, you can have great resources, you can have amazing salespeople and not have sales enablement tools. But it's really going to boost your efforts when you do. I'm a big believer in it. And you don't have to have all the fanciest stuff. Some of the really simple questions is, can they find what they need easily with a click of a button, right? Do they have something in their inbox to easily find content and email templates and things like that? And even access information about their contact. Again, if you're familiar with the HubSpot, like inbox integration, sales enablement tools, that's exactly that. It's all right there within Outlook or Gmail, and you can do it really quickly. Can they track what content and resources are getting engagement? Can they tell when someone opened an email? Can they engage from within their inbox, like I said, without having to log into another tool? Those are just some of the really basic things I think that are a good starting point if you're just starting to think about utilizing technology. Okay. I'm pausing a little bit in case anyone has like a burning question, though we will have time for questions too. Okay. So my third question is where we get into the training stuff. So how do we really make sure let's say you've done all this, you've done the audit, you've done the buyer's journey workshop, you've created all this great content, you have some technology rolled out, you've got sales plays created. So how do we make sure they actually adopt and use this? This really is the hardest part. And it can be surprising to me, even though I've been doing this for so long. It's like, we're doing this to help them, right? We're trying to help them with their sales process. We're trying to help them, make more money and close more deals. But salespeople can be really narrow kind of focused and can also sometimes be resistant to change and to new things. So this is where we can really, as leaders, help them and help encourage and ensure that adoption. So here's my kind of fast tips for training and adoption. So first off, have an internal owner, have someone that really knows and understands the content you have, the technology, and that they know they can go to for any questions, especially if someone is like a little more, not as tech savvy, especially like with technology. It can be really helpful to know they have someone they can go to and they're not bugging them. I find that to be huge. Utilize experts. So either make sure that you've got an expert in-house or hire someone externally to be an expert. Like, make sure you have someone who knows this stuff and can really help with different stages. You might look at all the things I just went over and say, oh, we can do all of that except for creating the content. We need to make sure we hire someone who can really do that effectively. Let's find that person or that company. Or, hey, we can create the content, but we really need help with the strategy. We want to make sure we've got the best plan. Hire someone, utilize experts. So that's just always a tip I have, both for everything you're doing, but also for the training piece. Make sure the right people are training and they know what they're talking about. Know your audience. So when I talk about your audience, I'm talking about the people you're training at your company. Know how tech savvy they are, know how resistant they might be to new ways of doing things, know how, just know that, know who you're talking to. And often, with that being said, keep it really short, right? Salespeople have a short attention span sometimes. So don't be like, all right, we're going to have a half-day training, know your audience, that's probably not going to work. Do things in kind of little pieces. Also use a tiered approach. One way I like to do this is if you do have a larger sales team, and that's what I often am working with, where you might say, we've got people that are going to be the best kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The people that are early adopters, they're going to be all excited about this. They're going to do this. They're going to embrace this. Let's get them trained and excited and work out any kinks and get feedback from them. And then we'll roll it out to the rest of the team. So that's an example of a tiered approach, just to kind of do it in phases, if it makes sense for your organization. Similar, but a little different, is start from the top down. Make sure leadership is on board. Even if it's as simple as you're just going to create one new amazing video to use in the sales process, something really simple, make sure your managers and leadership know it, are excited about it, are talking about it. Whatever that is, it needs to start with the top down, that you guys are making this part of your culture and how you do business, and that it's being talked about regularly. I've seen it so many times that leadership isn't bought in, and then that kind of energy just trickles down to everyone else, and it doesn't, it doesn't really pan out the way that you want it to, because they don't see that people care as much about it. It's not that big of a deal. If it's just like a marketing person over here chirping, use my content, that doesn't usually work. You need more on the leadership level talking about this stuff and really emphasizing the value of all these different things that are going to help them. I touched on keep it simple, but keep it simple. We know a lot more and we want to share all of that, but keep your training, keep your rollout of this stuff, keep it simple and make it simple for them to use. This is why I love sales plays and email templates. They can still tweak it. They can still make it their own and use their own language, but it's a starting point. It's something that, just an example of making it really simple for people. You can send out an email to your company and say, hey, we have this big webinar. Please go share on social. We want to get the word out, right? Or you could say, hey, we have this big webinar. We need your help sharing. Here's an example of 2 different posts you can copy and paste on your LinkedIn. I mean, the second one is going to just get more people doing it, and it takes us a couple extra minutes and it makes a big difference. Repetition is key. This is where ongoing training, just regularly reminding them of stuff. Have you used this video? Have you guys reminder of this email template? Can you all share an example of when you use this stuff? Asking feedback, things like that. Just repetition of this conversation around sales enablement, whatever it might be, the sales plays, the content you're creating, the use of technology, just repeatedly engaging in conversation and ongoing training to make sure that people have what they need and they're not forgetting about it because of the newest shiny object or something like that. Keep them accountable. This is a big one. If you are going to invest money and time and people and resources in anything related to helping your salespeople, you got to keep them accountable. It always breaks my heart a little when I don't see this happen, because there's so much that's invested in doing this, and for good reason, because we believe it and we know that it can work. But then salespeople aren't being held accountable, aren't being expected. They're not being followed up on. Hey, I need to see that you're using this tool. I see that you haven't logged in. I see that you're not doing this or whatever. Keep them accountable and make sure they know that this is an expectation, and not that it's like we're going to micromanage you. And if you're really finding someone's not doing it, let's have a conversation. Let's find out why. What do they need to learn? Or is it not good? Do they not think it's valuable? You want to have that information too, but keeping them accountable so that you can get that feedback is going to be really important. And my last piece here, bonus tip for adoption, is what I just mentioned. Encourage feedback and use it regularly. Again, if they don't see the value in it, if they're not sharing this amazing video that you created, you need to know why. Is it that you didn't explain how to use it properly? Is it they don't really think it's that good? Is it that they had a prospect say they didn't find it helpful? I mean, let's find out. Have these conversations and just regularly have a space to get that kind of feedback and be having that information, and then actually apply it. That's another key part. Don't just get the feedback like, all right, thanks, and then nothing changes. Make a change to the proposal template because you got all this great feedback or whatever it might be, so that they actually see and hear. And that's the true, the question you guys had at the beginning of this around friends or foes. True alignment is not just having great conversations and getting feedback. It's showing that we are applying it and that we value each other's input and experiences, both marketing and sales, and that it's being applied. So I think that's why this is so important. So to recap, what can you go do right away? Audit your content, conduct a buyer's journey workshop. And those can be really fun, the buyer's journey workshops, right? It's like a brainstorm. So make it fun. Find out what questions, objections, content would be helpful. Build a content plan and prioritize. Even if you just start with one piece of content that you need, that's a good place to start, and just figure out what's going to make the most sense and give you the most bang for your buck. Create sales plays. Again, start simple. It might just be one sales play, or it might be, we're going to invest in someone creating a whole sales playbook for us. Figure out what makes sense for you guys. Determine your technology needs, and then conduct that ongoing training and feedback opportunities. And so this is what we've seen work time and time again. It seems like a lot, and you can always just, again, boil these down and keep each step really simple. Don't overthink it. And all of this kind of comes together, and then you've got something that you can keep just up leveling year after year as well and building on. So that's what I got for you guys.
I have a question, Dani.
Yeah.
I'm the only one asking questions. Come on, everybody. When it comes to sales plays, you shared a great one earlier in the presentation. Do you have like a I don't know, list of top 3 topics that we should create plays around?
Yeah. Did this slide come up? Because I had it hidden before.
Yes.
Yeah. So the top 3, I don't know if I have top 3. I think it depends. We have a lot of stuff on our website about sales plays in particular. It's a big area for us. I've spoken at Inbound about sales playbooks and sales plays. So like this one, I think actually how to build a sales play is a good one that gives really specific examples and gets more in detail. So that's a good one to check out. But the short answer is, I would just say a good way to find out what makes the most sense for your organization is to look at where your salespeople may be having the least conversions, right? So maybe they're really good at getting first appointments, but you're not seeing those first appointments turn into the next step. That might be a great first play, or first sales play is like that one. Or maybe it's like, gosh, we could get all the way to proposal and then our close rate is just not very high. So maybe that's where you want to look at it. So I would just, kind of look at where do you need the most help and start there.
Dani, this is Marge Murphy. I have a question with regards to personas. Where do they fit in the whole, everything that you went through? Are they prior to, I mean, it's all about content. So are we doing personas prior to even looking at all of the sales enablement execution, or is it somewhat part of that? Where does that fit in, or where do you see it best fit in?
Yeah, great question. So I would typically say that happens before this. So that is like, you already kind of have some of that foundational stuff of like, you've done the research, you kind of know who your target persona is. These next steps are more once you have like some of that stuff in place and you know that, because you're going to want to think through some of these things like the buyer's journey workshop. You might want to do a different one for each persona. Sales plays, you might want to have, the same sales play, but different for each persona, even if it's the same step. So yeah, I would definitely do that first for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Christina, you're muted.
I realize why I haven't asked a question. I'm on mute. But I want to go back to the internal, because this is something I've experienced in previous lives where you work hard on, you understand it's an education factor, probably internally as much as externally to the client. How do you personalize, like you would do with personas and content, the training that you do for your own people? Because there are always the detractors that this is the way I've done it always. It works for me. I'm not interested in learning something new. Or the ones that genuinely just don't care. How do you onboard those people? Does the training differ? I guess is my question.
Yeah, it does. That's kind of like that tiered approach where I think knowing your audience, and like in some cases, it's like, okay, we're going to roll out everything to these folks. And maybe there's these, I think about some of the organizations, we work with a lot of media companies. So like large TV, radio stations, and they have some salespeople on our team that have been there for, 10, 15, 20 years, really veteran, really good at what they do, and really hard to get them to like change things. And so we might train them differently. We might just say, you know what, let's kind of cherry pick what we want to make sure they do and are accountable for. But it may not be everything. So I do think there's a time and a place for that. Also, my hard advice is, this is also a good time to evaluate if this person's a good fit for your team, yeah. Right? If you really believe in this and this is like the culture you want and this is the direction you want to go in as a sales team, and there's people who are just refusing to learn and grow, they may not be a good fit anymore. And that might be like a serious kind of thing to consider too.
Fair. Well, Mike, I turn to you. You've raised your hand.
Great. Thanks so much. Do you have any benchmarks on how much in hours or minutes, how much training in general you'd recommend, let's say, to get a new enterprise sales representative up to speed? Like, let's assume they're internal. And then same type of question, like if you're training up a partner ecosystem, and I know the answer is it's going to be depends, but I'm trying to just put some blocks around, like how long does it require to really get an external person up to speed and such? So I'd just love to hear your thinking on those topics.
Yeah, when you say get up to speed, do you mean just on like rolling out some new technology, or do you mean like onboarding a new hire to be ready to go out?
Yeah, let's start with actually like the onboarding scenario. So getting him or her up to speed on the firm, the offering, to where they could be effective.
Yeah, so it does depend. That's always the answer, right? But I'll work with it a little more here. So the biggest thing depends is like how complex is your sales process and how complex what you sell, right? So like we're big believers at our organization for hiring folks, and this is what we teach to our clients too, hiring folks based off of talent, not necessarily experience selling this thing, right? Great salespeople can learn a product and learn how to sell it. I'd rather have, instead of having someone who's, oh, I've been selling these widgets for 30 years. Well, that doesn't mean you're good at it. It just means you've been in this industry for a long time. So that is, I think, one of the largest variables. And then if I were to kind of come up with a sweet spot, I think it usually takes 60 to 90 days I would say probably about 90 days is my goal to have someone out being productive. And what I mean by that is our goal first and foremost is often, can we get you at the simplest stage, which is identifying prospects and setting new appointments? Because you don't need to know how to sell anything. We'll get the right people on the call with you if you can get the appointments, but that's the thing we need. So that's always my goal, is like, can we get them what they need to know right away so they can start doing that? An experienced salesperson could probably do that sooner, with a lot of history. And then, yeah. So that's so that's usually, I don't know, does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, so you're saying like 90 days to like some level of productivity where they're identifying prospects and getting some calls set up?
Yeah. I think 60 to 90 days is pretty realistic for them to start doing that.
So you probably align all your training into a 30, 60, 90 plan.
Yeah. And then the ongoing training will be, okay, now they've got appointments. They get to watch their sales manager or another salesperson in action with that prospect. And that's the way we do it often. And so that's part of the ongoing learning of like, oh, here's how you talk about it. Here's how you present it. And so it's a little more on the job training, because the biggest thing we want is like start filling their funnel.
But Dani, isn't that largely also dependent on how much sales enablement you have ready for them? And I look at our Michael, who is an absolute superstar, but we brought him on to nothing. And he, in addition to owning the sales and building this pipeline, he kind of had to own the sales enablement and tell us what it was that was missing and what he needed. And I feel like if we were more ready when we brought him on, he could have hit the ground running a lot faster.
Totally agree. I mean, we just hired a director of sales a year ago. We had never, I was actually kind of serving in that role at our company, and not well, because I was doing a lot of other things. And so, yeah, when she came, we were just like, it took a while for her to really, but that was just part of the job. We're like, listen, you're pretty much building this role in this department in a way that didn't exist before. And so I think it does matter. And I think sales playbooks, if you have a really well built out sales playbook, that is going to expedite your onboarding so much, because this stuff all exists. That to me is the hugest and one of the best investments you can make, because it's going to help you with new hires and all of that in the future, more like in addition to existing salespeople too.
So to Smart Habit, Mike, who's just building out this ecosystem, you would recommend having kind of like a sales playbook with, 3 to 5 plays set up before bringing people on?
Yeah, definitely. And in a sales playbook, it has, and you want to email me, I can send you like an example of like chapters that we have in it, but like it has a lot. It has like your sales process laid out. It has just all the stuff you probably have in random places. And maybe some of it you don't. It's just like, here's everything. And it's really like your training guide, but it's also something they can refer to for years to come.
I guess to that same point, would you also make recommendations on the stickiest tools that you find across industries?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think any salesperson should not have something similar to the HubSpot inbox integration tools. like whether it's HubSpot or not, I know this is a HubSpot group, and I love HubSpot. I've been using HubSpot for 9 years, but being able to know when people open your emails, being able to, with a click of a button, share a meetings link, share an email template, see information from your CRM. I mean, those to me are the most like bare minimum things to be able to do really quickly. The second one, that once you can get salespeople to really see the value, sequences, automating their outreach is huge and like such a game changer. And when I see that light bulb go off with salespeople, whether it's at my company or with our clients, like they're like, oh, I can automate this, like, and still customize it. I mean, that tends to be one that people get really excited about and really makes a big difference. I see a hand for Matt.
Hey, sorry, I'm walking on the treadmill, so I have my camera off. But overall, so HubSpot has the playbooks built in. So we have a document playbook that we've created. But the problem with it is, as you add stuff, the chapters get off, the pages get off. So a tool like HubSpot's playbook built in. Can you describe that? What's the advantage of that? Is that the same thing, or is that more just reference material inside of HubSpot?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if anyone else wants to answer this as well, because I'll be honest, we don't use the Playbooks tool a lot in HubSpot because we aren't on enterprise sales, and a lot of our clients aren't, which is really frustrates me. I wish the Playbook was available on the professional level, but that's just the case. So my experience with it is, I'm a big believer of having that like documented sales playbook that's like your master. And I think that ultimately that's what's being referenced. And then you build that out in HubSpot. That's what I recommend. That's how we've done it with some select clients. So it's like, you still have your, I don't know, ours is usually like in a PowerPoint, the playbook. I mean, this thing can be like 100 slides when we have everything in it, that all exists. And then it gets kind of whatever needs to be pulled. Not everything in the playbook needs to actually be in HubSpot, just the actual plays really. So that's the way we've done it. And then always make edits to the master version, make sure that's reflective.
I totally agree with that, Dani. I think that like HubSpot is a tool for the implementation, but anytime you're talking about strategy of anything, whether it be sales plays or your marketing strategy or any of it, you need to create the strategy first and then put it into the tool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And someone asked me just to say this, said, will you be sharing your slide deck? Yes, I'm going to be sending that and it'll be shared with you guys. You'll have access to that. So yes.
What percentage of your tools are video based? Or would you recommend?
Yeah, we use a lot of video. I actually, one of my favorite things we've ever created, we just created an ebook called like the complete guide to using video in the sales process. And it's like all the different types of videos at different stages. Because we're just such big believers in it. We use Vidyard. We love Vidyard, but I know there's lots of tools out there. And we just, but we also do really, like we have a partner where we create really great video case studies or, high production value. So we have those as kind of like some staple stuff, but more than it, that's probably like 10% of our video is more, higher production. What we use mostly is like salespeople or me, for instance, or someone at the company films little videos and just sends it to prospects. We do it all the time. We do it to answer questions. We do it to do a check-in. We do it to, in the times where a prospect like is like, just send me the proposal, which we all hate, we're like, no, let's get on the call. When they like really insist, I record a video and walk through it, So there's even things where like, I don't want to send them a document, but I might walk through something because I don't, maybe it's proprietary or something like that. So we just use it all the time. We're doing a big ABM campaign right now. And I actually recorded 15 customized videos where I'm walking through these target prospects websites, talking about what I'm seeing. And I did this as like a leader at the company speaking to other business leaders. And so that's another way, like really personalized stuff for some of our key like target accounts too. So we do it, all the time. We also love like whiteboard videos that explain stuff. All the video that we can.
What about, I guess maybe I think this question was internal. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask if it was an internal training is what you were creating with the videos, was what I thought maybe the question was going after as well.
Great question. Yeah, I'll answer it either way. So we do, we use video a lot internally. So we might do like if we're training someone on something new, we will typically record it and then save that somewhere for like a future hire if it's not something we already have. So we do that a lot. But also the Vidyard, we do that just to train people on something really quick, little snippets. I mean, we just find it to be easier than like jumping on a call even and trying to schedule stuff. So if it's like, hey, we can show you this in 5 minutes. We do that with our clients too. We're constantly sending them little videos and they love it. People are always just like, that was so much easier than an email with 10 bullet points. You just walked us through it in 3 minutes. So yeah.
I love that too for repurposing. Like if you already made it for one, you can just reuse it, write a blog post about it, share it on social media.
Yes, we do.
You know, in HubSpot too, guys, there's a place, if you're using HubSpot, where you can save those videos for internal training. There's a way you can connect your videos, and you can set up an area in HubSpot for sales training and what have you. And it does work great for internal training. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Vidyard is great. It really is. It's a great
Yeah.
tool.
I love Vidyard.
Sorry about that. Shoot.
Great questions. I love getting questions.
I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Kate Andrews. I have a question about adoption and encouraging feedback. In your experience, what's the best way to facilitate this? Is it anonymous intake forms, brainstorming? Is it a check quarterly one-on-one? What does that look like in best practice?
Good question. You know, I'm personally, and this is probably something I need to work on. I'm not a fan of anonymous because I'm like, if you can't like share stuff, I'm like, I don't know. But I'm learning that not everyone is like as comfortable as me in sharing feedback, right? Like there are people who would be more likely to share if they felt like it was anonymous. So I think there's a time and a place for that in particular. I think it has to do with like knowing your team. Here's the ones that I like to do. I like to have like group discussions from time to time where you tell people ahead of time what you're going to ask for feedback on, always giving them time to prepare. And then you have a group discussion. One thing I've learned is to make sure everyone is given time to speak. It's not just like anyone speaks, because there's always people who are going to have a lot more to say. So I do think that's an important thing if you're going to do a group thing. I'm a fan of the group because I do think you kind of like feed off of each other. But then I also like to do one-on-one, because there are people who just, if you can just spend 10, 15 minutes with them and ask them some pointed questions, you're going to get a lot more out of them just because that's their personality. So I like to have a mix of both. And maybe I'll even spot on like the group call that like someone didn't really share a lot. And so I follow up. I'm like, if it's someone maybe I already even have one-on-ones with, I might say, hey, I know like we had this conversation. Is there anything else you want to add? Anything else you're seeing or whatever that might be? I think that's really valuable. And then from time to time, we'll even do this, like our marketing department will do this. We'll do like a form where we send it out and they can just like submit via a form. We don't usually make that anonymous, but it could be if you felt like it would make a difference. But usually it's more, asking questions like, what are questions you're hearing, or what piece of content have you used in the last 2 weeks, or, just stuff that you want to have. If we're looking for feedback on like a specific training, like how do you think this training went? Was it valuable to you? Those are the types of things I would probably make anonymous. When we're when we really want like feedback on something that we did versus like, hey, tell us how it's going and what you need. Does that help?
Yes, it does tremendously.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
What percentage of assets do you have in top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel?
Yeah, I don't know, but let's see. I mean, I think for a lot of
what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think for a lot of our clients, like,
Yeah.
I think there's a need for, it does depend on how you sell, right? A lot of the companies we work with do a lot of outbound selling. So they're going out cold calling and calling on folks that haven't done anything. So in those cases, we need a lot of top of the funnel stuff. We need things that are going to hook them, be really educational, that is really being used in the sales process. If you have more of an inbound approach, you still need that much top of the funnel stuff, but it's more of a marketing thing, right? You're pulling them and via marketing with top of the funnel stuff. So I think either way, you need a lot of really good top of the funnel. I think that you probably need less bottom of the funnel than you think, because I do think that's where sales leaders tend to focus but like a lot of that stuff, it can be happening in the presentation process. I think you should have things prepared for like questions that might come up, right? Like, what is it like to onboard with you as a new client? Or how do you compare to your, competitors? Like things like that are going to be important, I think, bottom of the funnel stuff. But I honestly think top is probably the one that is overlooked more by sales organizations and is needed. And then middle, I guess, is probably kind of falls a little bit with the top of the funnel. Like, where's the educational stuff that you have that salespeople aren't as used to doing? They're used to selling like their product. They're not as used to typically being consultative and educational. So I think arming them with lots of cool things they're excited to share and just making that something they're always including in their emails and in their communication I think is the shift that really helps. So does that answer kind of?
That's great. No, that's fantastic.
Cool.
All right, well, if we don't have any final questions, then we can, Shelby, you want to take us away on our,
Absolutely. So thanks everyone for your questions. They were great. Like we said, we have some giveaways for you guys. So everyone that is here, you'll be getting some puzzle swag, HubSpot branded, from us. And then, as we mentioned, we have one random attendee getting an Amazon gift card from us. So we're going to pull up a little randomizer and see who that is. But Latal, while you're bringing that up, I just want to announce that our best question for today is Matt from Made Central. So you'll be getting a HubSpot inbound pass on us. I'll be getting in contact with you to shoot you over the details.
Oh, thank you.
okay, so here's our randomizer. Is anybody's name not on the list before I click go? All right, here we go. And this is for a
Well-
50. Who's speaking up?
Bright speaking. I can see my name there.
Oh.
This is so exciting.
Isn't this
Thank
fun?
you.
Real fancy.
Wait, did that add Bright in here though? Yeah, it did. Okay, so here we go. This is for a $50 Amazon gift card.
The suspense.
Yeah.
Sasha,
Sasha.
awesome. Congrats.
Woo.
Thank you so much. I think it's second time in a row, actually.
Yeah. Sasha, I'm gonna
Oh,
send you a DM.
She won the last time.
Yeah, we'll grab your email again and we'll be following up with that too. Awesome.
Thank you so much. Like, did you, I'm sorry for clarifying this. Did you contact me last time? Because I never received anything. I just want to make sure I'm in your database because I really would like to get announced of all the upcoming events and so on.
Yes. Well, we want to make sure you're on the list. We actually are using a new platform for our gift card. So we'll make sure that anything you are entitled to is made it your way. But let me shoot you a DM right now. So we have that. And yeah, you should be on all the email distribution lists too for the events, but I'll double check after this.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
twice in a row. Sasha, it's time to buy a lottery ticket.
I know we need to, I want to be working with Sasha.
I'll think about it. But yeah, anyways, thank you so much, guys. It was really, really informative and really insightful. I definitely would like a recording to share with my team. And like, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, yeah, we will
Sure.
be sending the recording out either today or tomorrow if we don't get to it by the end of the day. And just last thing, really helps us to have everybody's feedback as well as ideas for future topics you want us to talk about. So I put in the chat this link to just a real quick Google form to give us your feedback.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you,
again,
everybody.
Vivian.
And our next event is May 18th to talk about Service Hub.
Great job, Dani.
Thank you.
Yes, Dani.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Danny.
Out of my kids'
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.